the best of both worlds. But I mean, obviously, from us, Matt, from the fans, I think we all felt like the reason Matt would be going back to WWE was because of the whole broken Matt gimmick itself. Because it got so over last year. It started, to me, I thought this thing was ridiculous to begin with. Then I kind of got it. I got on board with it. He's been by far the most talked about character outside of WWE. So, do you think it's something that could happen further down the line, Matt? Because here's another interesting thing. I don't know if you've read this, but his Twitter account, he took it down like about 48 hours ago, and he renamed it just as Matt Hardy without the broken in it. And then I think about 16 hours later, he put it back up again with broken in it, and it was reported that they'd come to some sort of agreement with TNA and Anthem Sports. Very, very confusing situation, Matt. What do you think? I mean, what if you could, Matt? What would be the best scenario here for us fans coming out of it? And then, what do you also think is the more realistic that we're going to get?
Well, like Matt is with WWE now, so my ideal situation would be that he could continue his kind of broken character, because that is what has generated this hype around Matt Hardy and what has got the fans interested in him coming back to WWE. People were all thinking of matches that he could have with people like Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton, and how it would go down with whether it be on Raw, whether it be on SmackDown, but it just seems like they've inserted him into the tag team division now, like you said, just as the Hardys, and like you said about the Dudleys, they have done this in the past. It does get stale, but the Matt Hardy broken gimmick, that doesn't get stale. It's still quite new. I mean, I know it's been around for a while now in TNA and that, but coming into WWE, it's going to hit a whole kind of new audience, and WWE will have fresh ideas of what to do with broken Matt. If it's a money kind of thing between WWE and TNA to get this thing sorted, I would say just pay it and get on with it, But if it's them being difficult, then it's more difficult to actually come to an arrangement. But I really hope that they do, because it would add a much more needed dynamic to Matt Hardy in WWE, because I feel like he would be in danger of being lost kind of in the tag team division if they don't manage to set themselves apart from the rest.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And the only thing to put an example of a similar situation is when you'll remember, this goes back a long time ago, but you'll remember Razor Ramon, who left and then went to WCW. Of course, there was a big lawsuit that went through there, Matt. I don't know if you remember that or you recall it, but obviously when Scott Hall got on WCW, yes, his name had changed, but WWE felt like, well, he's using the toothpick, he's talking in that way, he's using certain words, and they put it in. Now, the conclusion, I can't quite remember, so I may need to look that up, but there was a similar kind of thing. Yeah, he wasn't using the Razor Ramon name, but he was definitely doing the traits of it, and that was their big sort of gripe against that one. So it gets very technical, very complicated when it comes to what is legally an intellectual property or trademarked and all this type of stuff. I mean, it gets confusing as hell. But obviously, if you are TNA, you kind of, I suppose you can see it from their point of view if they really did have it. But it also comes down to what was in Matt Hardy's contract, because from what I hear from guys like Matt Morgan that have spoke out about it, not all TNA contracts had it in where you couldn't use the character elsewhere. And I think I remember this much, Matt, that Matt Hardy was definitely using that character in all the indie promotions that he was at the time. Now, I don't know if that's because that was an agreement that he had with TNA, or if that ever ended, he wouldn't be able to do that. I'm not sure, but I do remember he never changed character when he was doing the indie shows. Obviously, in Ring of Honor, he was doing a bit of both, like he was that we've seen him in WWE. But Matt, what a weekend they've had, the Hardy Boys. What a few months. One minute TNA, then Ring of Honor, lots of titles the night before WrestleMania, and then they're winning the WWE tag team titles again. I mean, it's a mad. It's funny how things work out, I guess, Matt.
Yeah, and it's quite funny that he started this year and he kind of went on this expedition of gold and said that he would go out there and collect all of the tag team titles, and he's done just that, Yeah. So that's confidence paying off.
Yeah, definitely. Matt, what did you think of the John Cena Miz segment in all this? The match I thought was not exactly weren't exactly great. I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't. I guess as much as I thought it was going to be. But what did you make of that whole thing? Was it eye rolling stuff for you?
For me, it was probably kind of one of the low points of the night. I mean, I wasn't really highly anticipating this match anyway. I kind of felt like this was John Cena's step down to real mid-card level. And the fact that The Miz, he didn't really get a good outing in this match, and this whole thing was kind of one-sided, and we didn't see much of Nikki and Maurice in the ring either. It just felt like the time was really cut short on this one. And then what happens after the match, if anyone wasn't expecting that or was shocked, they definitely hadn't heard or paid attention to any of the rumours before WrestleMania.
It got a bit too much. I mean, especially with the fans' reaction, it was like, oh my goodness, what a nightmare that turned into. But yeah, I mean, it was. I guess on paper you can kind of envision things happening differently, but this was definitely not the case, and I was glad that quickly went past. For me, the match between Seth Rollins and Triple H, again, this is a match, Matt, where people have complained that it was a bit too long, that Triple H always takes up the most time on a WrestleMania card sometimes, that it should have been cut to about 8 minutes off it. But ultimately, Matt, I mean, he puts over Seth Rollins, so I mean, you can't really argue with too much. I will say that his entrance was definitely the one of the night. I mean, I think it becomes a traditional thing now that Triple H will definitely get that one sorted for himself, and that rampway almost seemed like, okay, that's why the rampway's so long. This entrance alone seemed to be ideal for it, with the police bikes going down, and then of course him coming down like the sort of the persona that he was trying to get across. What did you make of that match, Matt? And where do you lie with that match as far as, did you enjoy it, or did you feel it was a bit too long like everybody else at the moment?
I don't know, everyone's going to think I'm just biased because I'm a Triple H fan, but I enjoyed this match. This was one of my favourite ones of the night. I didn't get bored with this. There wasn't any moment I was watching this thinking, oh, this is going on, this is dragging on a bit. I thought they did a good job of telling the story, and Seth Rollins coming in slightly injured, and supposed to be the underdog in this match, but taking the punishment. And it felt like a nice little throwback from the Attitude Era, the way that they wrestled this one, and the way that they did a lot of outside segments, and like we saw Triple H focusing his attack on the leg, and it all made sense, and everything they did was towards a goal. And and much like you said about Triple H's entrance, that was great, but I equally enjoyed Seth Rollins' entrance. I thought it was quite original to come out there and put fire down and then set fire to the ring. Very symbolic of burning down Triple H's empire he's built.
Yeah,
so that was good.
I got all that. The only thing that was missing for me, but when Triple H comes out, everything about the character. You get that. You get it with Brock. You get it. But with Seth Rollins, I kind of feel like I still don't know who this guy is. I still don't know the character. I really do think they need to do more development with who is this guy really. What is kind of getting him going? Because it just seems like it's Seth. All we get is Seth freaking Rollins. But I need to know more than that. I need to know more about the character that he now is, because obviously we're since he's come back playing the babyface, especially there's very limited stuff about this guy. So I kind of feel like in the next year, they really need to work hard on. Not it's great that they've given him the rub, and I'm all for that, because I think that is the best way of getting guys over, and I think it does establish him as a top guy again. And I think they just need more with the character now. I need to know more about him to get invested into this guy, especially as a babyface. If you're going to be popular with the fans, you're going to have to get something where you can kind of rub something off with them as well, and have that. But yeah, I didn't think it was too bad coming out of that. Now this match, Matt, this was probably my least popular thing on the entire show, by quite a huge margin, and I think if this hadn't have been on there, I would say that this WrestleMania would definitely be on quite high standings. But the Bray Wyatt Randy Orton match, Matt, what did you think to that? And then also, what did you think, like, when you started to see these, you know, the insects, the creepy crawlies, and all the rest of it come up in the ring? What did you make of all this? It was a short match as well, I've got to be honest with you. It wasn't exactly long. And I felt the finish to it was so flat. I mean, for a babyface win, this was just... nobody seemed that bothered. What did you think about the match, man? Am I being a bit too harsh here? Or did this, you know... What did you think of it?
No, not at all too harsh. When I was watching this, it kind of reminded me of those rumours that we was hearing, like, straight away after the Elimination Chamber, when they was like circulating that Randy didn't want to do this match, that he didn't want to, you know, put this match on with Bray and job to Bray and all this stuff. And when I was watching this match and the way that Randy was wrestling, I just felt like he's not even trying. Like he was not there to put on the greatest show. He wasn't there to show off or anything. It just looked like he was doing A to B to C, you know, going through the checklist of things that he had to do through this match, and not really putting in 100% at all. And you know, it felt slow. It was plodding, and you know, and Bray didn't look good either, and the fact that he lost in this match, it's destroyed Bray for me, you know. Yeah. I can never look at that guy and think he's a credible contender, because every time he's like got close to the top, he's just blew it, you know, at the first challenger that comes along. And every time he's had a meaningful feud, he's lost it in the most meaningful match. So, you know, I can't take it seriously anymore.
When they did the projection spots in the match, like they didn't just do it once. Of course, they had to overuse it 3 times in total. What did you think of them doing that, Matt? Because I played this last night to a non-wrestling fan. You know, he knows of it, but he doesn't really know. And I wanted to just see his reaction to this, because I knew he'd think it was hocus, you know, a load of, make it even more rubbish. But I wanted that perspective. You know, is it just me because I'm not, you know, I'm in it so much? But he was just like, this, what is that about? Like, but the thing he said that made perfect sense was that this is like, hang on a minute, we've just seen an entrance. Like, he watched the Triple H Seth Rollins match just before, and the thing he was saying was like, hang on a minute, we just saw that entrance where Seth throws the, you know, the what did he have in his hand? Was it a dagger or whatever it was?
It was like
the fire. Yeah, and he, you know, he puts it on the ground and everything lights up. So he goes, we've just seen that on an entrance. So why would people think this is any different? And that's a good point. I mean, it was just stupid. If we hadn't seen all that sort of stuff, okay, maybe you get away with it. But like, even the commentators, it was cringy to listen to them try and explain what was going on. Like, how's Bray doing that? What's Bray doing? Like, come on, dude. It's WrestleMania. The whole set's been built like for this kind of stuff, and like the worst thing about it is that every time he was doing it, Randy was down anyway, so it wasn't even like he was getting a reaction from him. So that made zero sense. It really took me out. I found this really embarrassing to be a wrestling fan at this point. I can take the things. Yeah, you always get those things, like for instance with the Undertaker. I know we've seen him and Kane have some crazy battles where stuff's been done, and you know, we've seen it in the past where fire's been thrown at each other. But in a match, I just think that it's one thing to do it in the feud and all things like that, but during a match, I just thought it was kind of embarrassing. And this is something I hope WWE do not go to themselves. This is what we're going to do in every Bray Wyatt match now. We're going to have this projector used every time, because for me, it was. I don't know, like, who come up with that, Matt, in the meeting, in the production meeting, and said, "I got an idea. I've got an idea. We'll do this projection spot. Bray can be leaning over, and it'll be great. The fans will love it. They will think, oh my goodness." Because every time it happened, but there wasn't exactly like a huge reaction from the fans, because you know, we'd seen all this amazing stuff before it with the entrances. Like I just said with the Seth Rollins thing, like this is nothing any different. I mean, what do you think to that, Matt? Is that got a place in WWE, or should that be well out now and left alone?
No, I wouldn't be eager to go back to that. The The thing that it makes me wonder though is if they were going to go through that trouble of doing that, and they have this like massive budget for WrestleMania, given the character that Bray Wyatt is, and if we're supposed to believe